Good afternoon. I'm Dennis Galucki. Welcome to the 579th Imagine Greater Buffalo program, and very specially, our 200th YouTube production hosted by our Erie County Treasurer, the Downtown Buffalo and Erie County Public Library. Thanks for joining us today. This program is created by the Center for the Study of Art, Architecture, History, and Nature, or C-SAAHN, as I like to pronounce the acronym, and ImagineLifelongLearning.com. Now, before we get started, just a little housekeeping. Everyone watching will be muted and your video turned off. If you have a question or a comment, please type it into the chat box and we'll go through them at the end of the presentation as time allows. Now, we are recording this program so you can watch it again later on the Downtown Central Library's Facebook page and YouTube channels. And please, we certainly hope you share the link with others. Now, on to our featured speaker. Joining us today is Audrey Clark. Audrey is the Executive Director of Gardens Buffalo Niagara. Audrey Clark is the very first Executive Director for an organization that has been creating annual garden walks in Buffalo going back to 1995. So it's really a great privilege to have to interview Audrey Clark. And let's begin, Audrey. Tell us a little bit about your background. What were the steps in life that got you to this wonderful first executive director position? Take it away, Audrey.
Yeah, thank you for having me on today. Before I was with Gardens Buffalo Niagara full-time, I was full-time for the Michigan Street African American Heritage Corridor. I spent 5 years there. I started as a project manager and I left earlier this year as their curator of interpretive programs. So I spent a lot of time working with, some of those staples that you guys probably have heard of: the Michigan Street Baptist Church, Colored Musicians Club, the Nash House, and WUFO Radio. Before that, I was briefly at Niagara County Community College as their art gallery coordinator, and I have my degrees in art history and museum studies. I've actually been with Gardens Buffalo Niagara for 5 years. I was working with them while I was working with the corridor, but I didn't become the executive director or full-time until March of this year.
Great. Let's hear about Buffalo Niagara garden walks.
All right. I am going to share my screen. Can you all see it?
Now we can, yes.
So I'm going to start by just giving an overview of our organization and then talk about some of our events and really talk about some of the different stories I've heard from our gardeners over the past couple of years. So quite simply, our mission at Gardens Buffalo Niagara is to create more beautiful and vibrant communities by sharing our gardens. Our vision is beautiful gardens in every corner, connecting neighbors and inspiring visitors, which we see happen all season long across Western New York. Our story really begins in 1995 with Marvin Lunenfeld and his wife, Gail McCarthy. They held the first Garden Walk Buffalo with 29 gardens in their neighborhood, which was the Norwood West Utica Block Club. And they were inspired by a tour they had gone on a couple years previously in Chicago and thought, we could do this, we can do this better. And that's kind of what they did. So from that first walk in 1995, the event just kept growing and growing. By 2000, they had over 100 gardens that were participating all across the West Side. In 2004, we started giving out grants to help support others create gardens in their neighborhoods. We became a nonprofit in 2007, and by 2008, we had expanded to over 300 gardens in Garden Walk Buffalo and had 3 different headquarters, which our headquarters are where we give out information during the event. We have our maps available. We sell merchandise. We give visitors, especially out-of-town visitors, advice on where to go for lunch and things like that. And by 2011, we were starting to inspire other local gardening people to create their own events. So in 2011, the first tour of open gardens was held by the National Garden Festival, which was a separate organization at that time. In 2012, the first garden art sale was held. And then in 2014, some of these different garden groups came together and decided that, you know, maybe we should merge and become one organization since we're doing similar things. Um, so the National Garden Festival merged with Garden Walk Buffalo, which was the official name of our organization back then. And then in 2015, we were renamed to Gardens Buffalo Niagara. In 2018, we kept building our programs and events, and we held the first East Side Garden Walk. In 2019, we expanded the Garden Walk Buffalo footprint, which had primarily been on the west side, to include the Parkside and Park Meadow neighborhoods. In 2021, we held the first Urban Farm Day. Last year, we celebrated our 30th anniversary. And then this is really just to show how much work was being done by a completely volunteer-run organization. It took them 31 years to hire their first full-time staff member, and I became executive director in March of this year. So I kind of mentioned some of our programs in those first slides, but this is really everything that we do. So Gardens Buffalo Niagara is Garden Walk Buffalo. We're the Garden Art Sale, Conservation Day, Open Gardens, the Linenfeld Grant Program, Eastside Garden Walk, Urban Farm Day, and we also help support and promote all of the local garden tours that take place in the different towns around Western New York. So those are all the suburban tours, like Buzz Around Hamburg or Williamsville Garden Walk. Those events are things that are run separately, but we help promote. And if you know they need assistance with advice and things like that, we're happy to do that. Um, so in total, we're helping to support over 1,000 gardens every summer. This is a map of some of the gardens in the most recent years that we've helped to really elevate. So you can see it's really region-wide. It's hundreds and hundreds of gardens that we're helping bring visitors to. And at this point, I'm going to talk about how our season works and how we sort of kick off our program of events, which really begins in January when we open our Linenfeld Beautification Grant program. So this program is named in honor of Marvin Lunenfeld and provides seed funding to block clubs, nonprofits, and community groups that have big dreams for small spaces. We have awarded over $170,000 since 2004 when this program launched and have supported 250 gardening projects across the city. We view these as being long-term investments in our neighborhoods that help support creativity and environmental sustainability for our region. And we encourage these different groups to come back year after year to continue to build up their gardens and build up their communities. These are some pictures of a couple of projects from the last couple of years. We gave some funding to the Florida Street Block Club a couple years ago. UB Center for Urban Studies with Frida's Garden on Main Street has received funding a few years in a row now at this point. And same with the Minnesota Avenue Block Club project. This is a map of all of the winners, recipients that we have given funding to over the last 21 years. So you can see that we're really trying to spread our funding out as wide as we can. At this point, the requirements to apply for a Lunenfeld grant are that you must be located within the city of Buffalo. Your garden must be a community or public garden, and you must have volunteers to help manage the garden. But other than that, we don't really have that many requirements. So if there's a vacant lot in your block that you want to see transformed and you have access to it, we encourage you to apply. If you're not a 501c3 or a nonprofit, we can pair you with other nonprofits to act as your sponsor to help manage those funds. We just really want to see gardens created and put into our community. We already awarded our projects this year. So these are the 2025 projects. And they're pretty evenly distributed between Buffalo's west side and Buffalo's east side. This grant program primarily began on the west side, funding projects in the Garden Walk Buffalo footprint, and then we expanded it a few years ago to be, the entire city. So we have, the Gardens and the Allentown Association and Armory Hill Association block clubs, but then we also have newer projects on the east side, like the Coles House project is a first-time recipient this year. East Lovejoy Coalition of Neighbors is also on the east side in the Lovejoy neighborhood. They've received funding a few years in a row. So we're really trying to spread this money as far as we can in our city. After we give out our grants, we really kick off our season at the end of June. This year, the Garden Art Sale, which is held at the Buffalo and Erie County Botanical Gardens, will be June 28th and 29th. And it's a way for us to celebrate both the artisans that are making these crafts, but also the gardeners who are curating their outdoor spaces and turning them into really what I consider outdoor living art galleries. It's really quite special what some people can do with their yards. So this year we're going to have over 70 local artisans and craftspeople. If you've never been to the show, you should definitely check it out. It is not like some of the other art shows in the area. We don't typically have vendors that are selling things that go inside the house. These are all items that are meant to be in your garden as a piece of art. So there's a lot of, fountains, bird baths, bird boxes, stained glass, wind chimes, things like that that you can put outside in your yard. So if you're looking for something to add a little color to your yard, this is a great way to do it. I know that like my backyard is pretty shady and I can't grow a whole lot of flowers and things like that. So I usually come home with a couple of like beautiful, colorful stained glass pieces that are on a stake that I can stick in to add a little color. So it's a good way to do that sort of thing. After the garden art sale, we'll have Conservation Day, which is going to be on July 12th this year. We hold it in partnership with the Bidwell Farmers Market. So it takes place on a Saturday from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Um, and this is a day where we bring together different regional environmental groups to engage the public on sustainability issues. This can be anything from composting to climate action. And we end the day with my favorite part, which is a butterfly release in partnership with the Eastern Monarch Butterfly Farm. And it's great for kids, but it's also great for adults if you like butterflies. We send out 100 butterflies into the area. It's really fun to watch. Last year we had over 15 green groups that joined us. This year I think it's probably going to be closer to 20. And some of the green groups that you can learn from include organizations like Citizens Coalition for Wildlife and the Environment, the Eastern Monarch Butterfly Farm that I mentioned, Grassroots Gardens, Niagara Greenway, the Toll Library, Western New York Land Conservancy, and others. And we're really starting to see more and more interest in sort of the environmental impacts that gardening is having on our area. I have been trying to spend a lot of time talking to the different gardeners in our different events and learning about what inspired them to join. And there was a gardener on Herkimer Street who was basically telling me how gardening for her isn't just about the aesthetic, it's about all of the different benefits that it can bring to her block. So she has really leaned into the environmental sustainability aspect, and she's got rain barrels that she uses to collect the water to water her plants. She has flowers and vegetables that are working together. The flowers are giving food to the pollinators, and then she's eating whatever she grows in the garden, and then any leftovers that she has, she actually puts into a community fridge that's located right on her street, the Herkimer Community Fridge. So that way members of her community can also take part in benefiting from the produce she's growing. After Conservation Day, we'll have open gardens all throughout July. It's going to be Thursdays and Fridays like it is every year. And this is much more of a tour than a walk. You can't really walk the open gardens. We have gardens that are as far away as, in Niagara County, Gasport, Lockport, Lewiston, and then in the southern tier, as far south as Eden, Holland, West Falls. It's really much more of a regional thing, and it's a way for us to sort of connect the suburban and rural parts of our region to the city. Um, since these gardens are located primarily in the suburbs, they tend to be much larger. They tend to have more space to play with. This is the only program we offer that there is a vetting process. And that's simply because if people are driving all the way out to, Gasport to see some gardens, we want to make sure they can spend some time there, 20, 30 minutes chatting with the gardener, learning about what they're doing, experiencing everything they have to offer in their yard. So it's a great way to spend a Thursday or Friday if you're looking for something to do in the summer. Definitely recommend checking that out. New for the first time this year is we're actually going to have a bus tour of some of our open gardens. Sally Cunningham, which if you don't know who she is, you should Google her later. She's our local gardening expert. She has authored a couple different books and tons of articles. She really knows what she's talking about. We're going to be visiting gardens in the South Towns, primarily in Orchard Park in Hamburg, and then also have a tour of Lockwood's greenhouse. It should be a great day. I will say this tour is almost sold out. There's only 3 tickets left. So if this is something you're interested in, definitely shoot me an email or call me later this week. I don't think they're going to last long. And then after Open Gardens, we get into the East Side Garden Walk, which this year will take place on July 19th and 20th. Um, the East Side Garden Walk began in 2018 as a way to encourage visitors and neighbors to walk, drive, and bike on Buffalo's East Side, learning about the creativity of the community. Visitors can meet the gardeners, learn about the historic neighborhoods, and the history of the area. Um, East Side Garden Walk is the same sort of idea as Garden Walk Buffalo, but it has there's something special about it. The gardens on the east side are bold and personal, and the gardeners are resourceful. You can find gardens that are literally container gardens. So there's one garden I'm thinking of where he basically has a bunch of pots and found objects that he plants things in. It's just this is crazy use of sort of found materials, which is really, really great to see. And it really seems to be much more about that sparking of connection between people than I feel some of our other walks have. Um, I want to read this quote on the screen by Mr. Walter Miles, who's one of the East Side Garden Walk gardeners, because I think it really shows that sort of connection building that's taking place. So Mr. Miles has said that he's met more good people in his life in his garden, and everybody has a good sense of humor, and flowers are really the answer to help building bridges. The only thing that he thinks are comparable to the relationships that flowers can build are sports. And he has a very unique relationship with this young girl. Their photo is here in the center. Her name is Felicity. They started bonding over their little flowers, and now Felicity goes over with her mom a couple times throughout the summer and helps him garden. And they have this really special sort of bond that they formed over this. And they're not the only ones on the east side that are forming really strong friendships. I don't have a picture here of our co-chair, Verona Moody, but she's also a gardener on the East Side Garden Walk. And when people visit her garden, she wants to stay in touch. She asks if she can get their email or their address, and she strikes up a pen pal relationship with them, writing them, holiday cards and dropping them little notes throughout the year, really encouraging them to come back and visit her again in the summer. It's really special. And then obviously Garden Walk Buffalo, sort of the one that started it all. This year it'll be July 26th and 27th. And it's an event that's been happening for 31 years at this point. We've really started to see it become an intergenerational thing. I was talking to another gardener who actually doesn't live that far from me. She's on Potomac and I'm on Garner, which are both, west of Grant Street, so we're kind of deep in the west side. And she was telling me about how her mom was one of the original Garden Walk Buffalo gardeners back in the 90s, and it really sort of inspired her when she moved back to Buffalo to say, you know, if I'm going to buy a house, I need a garden and I need to encourage my neighbors to garden. So she, you know, gets all of her plants from neighbors and friends, and she shares any extra plants that she has with neighbors and friends. She's also growing vegetables in her yard that she also uses to go and stock the community fridge I mentioned earlier on Herkimer Street. There seems to be an interest more and more in people giving back with the things that they're growing in their gardens to the community. And I think that's something that's really special. We do think we're America's largest garden tour. We have over 300 gardens every year. Most people know, you know, the gardens near Bidwell Parkway and Summer Street. Prospect Avenue has been on forever, but it's really a pretty large geographic area. So if you've visited these gardens that are in the, you know, more famous neighborhoods, maybe take a drive out to the Parkside neighborhood and see some of those yards because they're all special. And it really it comes down to that nobody seems to be celebrating gardens the way that we do here in Buffalo, and people are really starting to um, notice that. A couple weeks ago, I had attended a talk at the Martin House by Abra Lee, who is a garden historian and a horticulturalist based out of Atlanta, Georgia. She's been here a couple times before, but this time she was here for the Martin House's creative residency project, where she really spent a lot of time researching gardens here in the area. And during her talk, she basically said, you know, our gardens are an exceptional example of what she called gardening of the common folk. So our gardens may not be, you know, at the level of Versailles or Longwood Gardens with these huge sprawling estates, but they're really rich with stories, they're rich with passion, and they have soul. And the thing that I love that she said is, I like was scribbling it down as she was giving her presentation, is that she really thinks our gardens and how we garden is worthy of academic study and what that means for the community around us. And I really hope that one day some professor at some university decides to look into what our gardens are doing for our neighbors. Our last program of the year is Urban Farm Day. This year it's going to be on August 16th. And this is really when we, you know, show what you can do on small spaces if you're interested in growing food. So whether you're into learning about compost and soil health or wanting to learn how to grow in, you know, raised beds and containers, there's something available for everybody at this event. This year, some of our highlights include uh, a community bake at Guideworks Market Garden, which is, from what I understand, last year was like a pizza baking event that they're going to do again. There's different talks and events happening at some of the farms. So I know that Flat 12, which is a mushroom farm, is going to be doing tours of their space again, which they've done in the past. And then there's some silly things too. Like new this year is there's going to be rabbit petting. So if you just need to like get some, you know, fuzzy cuddling in, there's some rabbits you can go pet at the Raider Garden this year, which is fun. These are some past participants in Urban Farm Day. So we have Grassroots Gardens, which they're based on Broadway, but they have gardens all across the city. Farmer Pirates, which does the composting. And then some of the farms do actually sell their produce. So if you're looking to purchase some locally grown healthy food, you can do that on the tour and take it home with you. I want to just say thank you to all the season sponsors this year that helped make this possible. I'm going to give a special shout out to Highmark and Senator Sean Ryan that are presenting sponsors. And then I also want to give a special shout out to C-SAAHN, who has been a sponsor. I don't know if you realize this, since 2010. That's one of our longest supporting sponsorships. So thank you, Dennis, for continuing to support what we do. We couldn't do it without you. And if you're interested in getting involved, we would love to have you join us. There are so many ways you can get involved. You can just volunteer during one of our events, whether it's C-SAAHN Garden Walk or Garden Walk Buffalo, hand out flyers, hand out maps, answer questions from out-of-towners. If you're interested in doing stuff in the winter, we actually work on this year-round. So you can join a committee, you can share your skills, you can help us plan. If you have an idea that you think maybe we should try out, you can chat with us at the committee level. If you have a garden and you're not sure if you can sign up, you definitely can. My background today is actually my garden, and you can see that it's kind of chaotic and probably not what some of the more well-known gardens look like, but that's okay. I can still sign up for Garden Walk Buffalo and I can still show it off, because it's not about how you grow or what you grow. It's just that you're proud of it and you want to share it with your neighbors. You can always donate to help support our mission to create vibrant and beautiful communities. Our donation information is all on our website. And then finally, you can encourage your friends, family, and neighbors to join us, whether that's by attending one of our events or joining us one of these other ways. We just really want to have people spread the word about who we are and what we do and what makes Buffalo Gardens special. If you want to stay in touch, this is my contact information on the screen. So you can always send me an email or give me a call. And with that, I'm going to say thank you and turn it back over to Dennis.
Well, what a whirlwind tour of Buffalo's gardens and beyond. Audrey, thank you very much. You said something that really intrigued me. 4 words that somebody had said: our gardens in Buffalo are worthy of academic study. And I started thinking to myself, well, how could we help promote that reality? As I mentioned at the beginning, Imagine Lifelong Learning is the sponsor, because it is a process of lifelong learning, gardening, and how do you tie that then to the various colleges, universities? What area of study do they present that would invite people to even consider some research study? Because I hear the term Buffalo Gardens, I think you try to give it some definition almost. What is a Buffalo Garden to a national audience, if you hope to attract national audiences? Maybe give that some thought. Maybe it's something we can talk, after the program about. But how would we get that academic thought process included here, since there's so much identifying humans with nature?
I sort of think about it, the more I think it would be something that some sort of urban planning department would be interested in, because I think, we all love the beauty that gardens brings, but I think the thing that is really interesting to me anyway is what this has done to our community. I think we were chatting before we opened up the presentation, and you said that you really think this has helped transform Buffalo, and I've heard that from several people. And so if we're hearing that anecdotally over and over again, there has to be some truth to that. And you would think that maybe an urban planner might want to look and see like what the actual benefit of gardening has on a community. I've heard that like people who have no interest in gardening suddenly start gardening because their neighbor has a beautiful yard next to them, and they feel like, well, I got to step it up a little bit, and how that kind of grows from there. And then to your point about Buffalo style gardens, I think the thing that, Buffalo style gardens are individuals. Like there's not like that I think there's a lot of found art involved in our gardens, but I think the thing that's the most striking about it is that none of them look the same. Like they kind of have this sort of like rustic charm to them, and they have a lot of found objects in them. I'm thinking of one of my board members' gardens on Highland, where they have a bunch of bowling balls they stacked on top of each other, and that's their art sculpture. So it's like this very sort of personal thing that they're doing, and that's kind of, to me, what makes it a Buffalo garden.
The uniqueness of it. Well, just recently we had the the AKG, Buffalo AKG Art Museum's public art representative talking about the countywide effort for public art. And I really put you in the same category. Those gardens all around Erie County and beyond, Niagara County as well, are public art for the most part. Some of the backyards nobody sees except when you open them up to the public during this month of July. But they really go hand in hand. So yeah, I think there's something to explore in that mutuality of public art and the garden walk, Buffalo Niagara Garden Walk.
Definitely agree.
All right, let's see if we have any other comments or questions.
We have not received any other question.
Well, come on, folks, get with it. We have a great opportunity to go ahead and chat with the brand new executive director. I see some good folks online that might want to comment and that have been involved with this garden walk. I want to emphasize a point. First paid executive director since 1995. That means for 30 years, this group did not have staff. It had volunteers. And C-SAAHN was created as a digital enterprise and network to help link volunteers together and see how they're all working together to create two different things: a healthy, wealthy, and sustainable community, but also in its primary mission, see ourselves as a premier cultural and nature center here in the greater Buffalo region. So let's see if that prompted any questions, Melissa.
The first question we have is, are the posters available for sale?
Yes. So the posters, we have all, I think all still, I don't think we're missing any, all previous year posters available on our website, and the 2025 poster, which is this beautiful alien by I'm forgetting his last name, but his first name is Joe. Those will be available for sale starting at the garden art sale at the end of June, and then they'll be available at Garden Walk Buffalo, and then after that they'll be available online with the others.
Thank you. Those are all the questions. That's the only question we've received. So,
well, good. You know, I have the good fortune of living in the city, and make it a ritual to walk on a daily basis, a mile or two, and often you see gardeners at work, and I invite people, when you do that, thank them. Those gardeners are making Buffalo look great. I appreciate just to see the efforts of good people keeping up their property. Maybe it's average, maybe it's above average, maybe it's excellent. But between the different seasons and the different plantings that allow us all to take a daily free garden walk, but especially this organized free garden walk, perceived by many to be the largest in the country as far as size and for free. So take advantage of the gift that we're given because of all the dedicated. Every gardener is a volunteer. They do it for their pleasure and their beautification, but really for the community's pleasure and beautification, if the community has eyes to see. I trust this helps that process along, Audrey. Thank you very much for being our guest. Welcome to the job, and many years of gardening to you and all the good volunteers that you've attracted. So
For having me.
You're quite welcome. Folks, thank you for joining us today. Hope you'll come back next week. It is a special program on June 10th. We'll be hearing from the founder, co-founder, John Montague of the Buffalo Maritime Center, and the president of the organization, Board President Ann Conable, because both will be receiving the 2025 Imagine Greater Buffalo Recognition Award. Every year since we started in 2009, we've given out that award, sometimes a couple in one year early on, but last year's was to Mary Wilson and the Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Foundation. And the year before to the AKG, Buffalo AKG Art Museum team received that award. So it's our way of acknowledging the good people we have in our community, usually engaging with volunteers, which is who we like to honor with the Center for the Study of Art, Architecture, History, and Nature. So, folks, thank you again for joining us today. I'm Dennis Galucki. Be well and good day.